Long time ago, when the animals could still talk to each other.
On this edition of Native Report, we'll focus on storytelling and how folks are keeping this important tradition alive.
So is this problem joining together for adding, or is it taking away for subtracting?
We meet Meredith Martin, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Indian Education 2009 National Teacher of the Year. And we visit the Language Nest, a daycare where learning the Ojibwe language is child's play. We'll also hear from our elders and learn something new about Indian country on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. To truly know a culture, you must learn its stories. Stories of fantastical characters capable of the most incredible feats imaginable are meant to entertain, but to also teach morals or impart historical truths.
Anybody know these ones? Dodge Gates, I heard that one. And what's the other one? Honey Mush. Dodge Gates, Honey Mush.
The gathering on this winter day at the University of Wisconsin-Superior brought parents, children, and college students together to listen.
Everybody know what those two creatures are, or do I need to do 4 invitations any further? Anyways, you ever wonder why they don't like each other?
This is our second annual storytelling gathering. We wanted to do something where we could all come together and promote positive things about our culture, and there's nothing more positive or more on point than storytelling. One of the things we have in April is American Indian Awareness Month, and we usually did some storytelling as part of that. And I can't speak for the other colleges, but I'm sure they did some similar things, and we just thought, well, why don't we pull this all together and make it into a very prominent event, and I think that's kind of where that came from.
Storytelling varies from nation to nation. For the Anishinaabeg, storytelling is reserved for the long winter nights as a way to pass time, but also to pass knowledge and teachings.
There are a couple of kind of stories. There are just general, humorous, everyday stories, and then there are the what people call legends, but I don't call them legends. I call them teachings. They are the Winnebujo stories that are told only in the evening, at night, during the winter months, okay? Because that is a time for learning. When we're in our lodges, when we're in our homes, those stories are told, those teachings are told so that our children will learn about life.
A long time ago, when the animals could still talk to each other, which was like yesterday, but we just don't pay attention to them anymore the way we used to. So
when you tell a story, whether it's in Lakota, or Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, or Dene, whatever story that you're telling in that language, there's a hidden subliminal language that are passed on. Because when you tell a story, if I tell a story in Lakota to my children, I'm not only telling them to reminding them to remember the language, but remember where you come from. This is who you are as an individual. So it's important now we talk to our children in English, so they don't get that connection anymore. So that's why when you tell stories, you want to throw in some languages in there. You know, I don't know much about Anishinaabe, but like in Lakota, we throw in words that will be kind of catchy words. So say, like if I'm telling a story, I'll throw in some Lakota words in there So it kind of, they'll catch it. And
So they'll remember those.
they'll remember those stories and words, yeah.
The animals, they used to live in clans, the way we did.
Stories of the trickster Wenabuju, also known as Nanabuju, Manabuju, or Coyote, are often about the natural world around us. Yet he is considered a spirit embodying both positive and negative qualities.
He was our messenger from the Creator. And he was everything a human being could possibly be. He was good, he was bad, he was honest, he was dishonest, he was evil, he was good, he was serious, he was funny, and he did everything a human being could do, plus more. He was a wanna-do, of course. And he would do things bad, and he would get punished. He would get hurt really bad to show people what would happen if you behave like that. Then he would do good things, really good things, and he would get rewarded, and to show people what would happen if you did good things. And to tell a Wenabuju story, the stories that you tell about this Manadu, it would take you from the time you were a year old to probably the time you're about 80 years old to finish telling the stories, and then you probably wouldn't be done anyway, because he spent his whole life teaching Anishinaabe people how to live.
The oral tradition is the preferred method to hand down stories to the next generation. Recording the stories does have its supporters, but it also raises a debate within the storytelling community.
We were taught at a very young age some of the stories. You know, my father, being who he was at the time, didn't have issues with tape recorders and cameras, and as a matter of fact, he was real gadgety in his time, and so he liked cameras and tape recorder and reel-to-reels, and so technology was not an issue for us. You know, some tribes were, other people had issues with it. You look at kids today, and they don't learn anything. They're not willing to learn because the technology that is available to them, it kind of deters them from storytelling. So if there's a way you can take that storytelling and convert it into the technologies available to them, then I think that'll be the way to reach them. You know, sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire to reach the children, to get them to understand, hey, this is who you are.
You have a lot of educators now that are trying to bring all these things back. Don't commercialize our teachings. Don't make cartoon characters out of our Wenabuju stories. Don't make movies about them. My uncles, Jim Clark and Rainey Boyd, told me one time when I was working back in the 80s, I wanted to do something, I forget exactly what it was, and they told me absolutely not. You tell those stories. You don't put them down like that in a storybook.
The listener's part in the time-honored tradition of storytelling is needed to connect story to culture.
One of the things we're trying to do is to promote cultural awareness. And storytelling is the key way of doing it. That's how we've always done things. That's the way we pass on our traditions, our culture, our ceremonies. Through storytelling, it's the best way to do that. People, especially kids, they remember the stories. And if you tell those stories long enough, they become part of you. And so I think storytelling was one of the best ways to bring, there's no politics involved. There's no per capita discussions. There's no enrollment issues. It's just storytelling, and it's preserving our way of life. And that's what this is really about, is preserving our way of life.
Did you know that storytelling and oral traditions are of special importance to American Indian tribes? For many tribes, the cultural hero was often both the source of good things in life and a trickster or a fool who delighted in showing people they were not as smart as they thought they were. The stories of tribes around the Great Lakes region recounted the origin of their people, their clans, and world, but also emphasized religious values, ethical attitudes, and taught practical lessons. Some stories can only be told by tribal elders, and some oral traditions are closely guarded by tribes. Many tribes believe that the power released by the telling of some stories, such as the creation story, has the power to heal, prolong life, or ward off evil. But some stories were told in social situations as entertainment for children and adults, especially on long winter nights.
Meredith Martin is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Department of Indian Education's 2009 Teacher of the Year. She has taught at the Fond du Lac Ojibwe School for the past 15 years. Her philosophy is simple: all children can learn.
I know all children can be successful. It's just my job to make sure that I get to know each one of them individually and personally, know about their home life, know what drives them, and most importantly, I feel my job is to really instill that desire to have that lifelong learning that's going to make them successful members of society.
Meredith Martin has high expectations for her students, but a student's success is more than a grade on a report card.
Star, do you want to come on up? It's not measured by the whole classroom. I measure it individually. And success for one child is so different from another. When I see that light bulb go off for each one of them, and that smile and that feeling of success and that pride, then I know I've reached success. Can you help her, I think the most important thing when trying to accomplish that is just having clear, high expectations for kids. It's heartbreaking to think of what some of my kids deal with on a daily basis, but I know that's something that I can't change. So when they walk in the door every day, they know what's expected of them. They know they have a job to do. And just developing those clear, high expectations every single day is what's really important for them. Just giving them that daily structure. If you are having trouble reading your problem, you may ask your neighbor to help you read your problem.
Martin was selected as the 2009 Teacher of the Year by the BIA Department of Indian Education. And while it may be an individual honor, it's a positive reflection on the school and its staff.
Well, it recognizes that we have excellent teachers here. They go the extra mile for their students. They take the time to really know their students and establish a rapport with their children. And that really helps us to differentiate instruction to meet everyone's needs and address every child's unique learning style, and really to teach the children where they're at today and help them get to where they need to be. I've worked with Meredith for 15 years. We both started here in, I think, 1994. And so I've watched Meredith grow as a teacher, and she's just a wonderful person. And actually my son is in her class too. And so I really have faith in her as a teacher, and this award really shows everyone what an excellent teacher she is.
I work with so many talented teachers and have seen so many talented teachers that it's kind of hard to accept. The attention has been hard. It means that I'm honored. It means that I feel like I'm being thanked for a lot of years of hard work. But I think the most important thing when it comes to that is just knowing that I have to strive to be better for my kids every year. When you're a teacher, you never reach a certain plateau. You always strive to be better, to make learning fun, more desirable for kids. I think the kids drive me in everything I do. If things don't work, I have to find a way to make them work. If I've had a bad day, I go home and think tomorrow is a new day. And when they walk in the morning and smile and greet me with, "Hi, teacher," things just seem to be better. I just think it's the most rewarding thing to do.
Martin recognizes her responsibility as a teacher. She practices sharing that responsibility with the parent and the student.
I would like to encourage people to become teachers. It seems like the profession is not as popular as it once was. It definitely has changed with meeting state standards and academic standards in the classroom. I have an open door policy in my classroom. I invite parents in whenever they're able to. I have a website that I update every week, just including them and letting them know of important events that are coming up. I send home a weekly newsletter. I do daily planners where we communicate daily about behavior and homework. I ask parents to read to their kids every night. I ask them to help them get their homework done, just to really try to help with second graders in achieving that responsibility that's going to make them successful.
What message would you have for students?
Students, do your best. Try your best. Don't give up. Work hard to succeed.
And for potential teachers, Martin's words of advice are similar.
It's something that you need to work for. It's not an easy job by any means. It's challenging. I think it gets more challenging as the days go by. But I just think it's so fulfilling and so rewarding. Every year you get a new batch of kids with varying abilities and learning styles, and it's just getting to know them and finding what makes their learning successful.
I'm told back in the 16th century that when the French came to Waswaganing, didn't discover Waswaganing, but came. You know, they came in the springtime when the fish were starting to spawn, and they were up on the spawn beds, and they seen Indian people at nighttime, you know, out on Flambeau Lake, as they call it today, spearing walleye, suckers, or whatever was close to shore. And I believe at that time the French gave Waswaganing the name Lac du Flambeau. It's a French name. Waswaganing is our Anishinaabe Moan name. And I guess historically we've always been those type of fishermen. Very seldom did we hold, you know, the poles that the sports anglers hold in their hands today. The pole that we held was the spear.
Many nations across Indian country are working toward language revitalization. Language immersion, where children learn the language by living in it, has really been successful, which they are discovering at the University of Minnesota Duluth's Ojibwe Language Nest.
The classroom looks much like any classroom, but here at Young Language Nest on the University of Minnesota Duluth campus, Ojibwe is the primary spoken language.
One of the features, I think, of any immersion program is that the planning is pretty immaculate, that we think very carefully about our language objectives. So what are the skills we want children to be able to have to actively speak and understand the language? We also are committed to a culturally based curriculum. So we also think, okay, what are some of the vital products? What are some of the practices? What are perspectives we want children to have as a result of their time here in the nest? I think any language immersion program, especially an Indigenous language immersion program, needs to be focused on both of those pieces, language and culture in sync. Another defining feature of any immersion program also is the content aspect of it. For instance, at our school here, as I know with other immersion programs, our students learn the same core academic skills they would in a parallel English program.
The The strength of the immersion approach is the language itself is the teaching tool.
The commitment just to speak Ojibwe is a very serious one, but it's also vital to an immersion program. Our commitment here at this particular school is, especially as staff, not to use English with each other, and especially never in front of the children. I guess that just recognizes that if we speak English to each other, that's what they're going to model. So as a small school, then what we've tried to do is create a mini language community in which, as much as we can with parents, with each other, with visiting staff members, trying to keep the discourse Ojibwe language only. That does make it challenging for planning considerations. We do spend an awful lot of time mapping out each, little half-hour block of time, whether we're doing some kind of, guided play activities. We think very carefully, what are going to be the language objectives for this?
Gordon Jourdain is the Language Nest's head teacher. Ojibwe is his first language, and much like how he was given the language by his elders, Jourdain is given the language back to the children.
They are so non-judgmental and accepting of a lot of things. And that's the atmosphere that the language will naturally grow in a place that has non-judgmental minds. They're accepting of a lot of things that we're doing with the language. So that is the kind of place that will grow in Ojibwe language acquisition. To be able to teach Ojibwe, you have to be extremely flexible in how you deliver your program to anybody that comes along. You have to use facial expressions, of course, the intonations in your voice, actions with your hands, and that's not a natural Ojibwe thing to do. Like to use your hands and your facial expressions. It's just a melodic Ojibwe language. So for me, that is very challenging. I have to almost step out of my Anishinaabe frame of comfort and be, somebody that the children absolutely love to watch.
On most days, a UMD education student helps Jourdain in the classroom, and items around the room are labeled with their Ojibwe name to reinforce the written word as much as the spoken word.
We have also made it our mission, in as much as we want to help young children learn the language and acquire the language, simply because there's such great language acquisition potential at that level. We also recognize the needs of our adult learners who want to be teachers of Ojibwe. That's why many of them come to UMD, because that's their passion, to either connect with the language of their parents, their grandparents, but to, I think more than keep it for themselves, they want to extend that back to the communities. So our mission here is dual, that we work to help educate young children, but we also work to educate young adults and older adults and help restore language at that level. So in essence, this program here, it's based around the learning experiences of the children, absolutely. But we built this particular program to also be able to mentor language teachers of the future.
Enwe Young means our voice, and McInnes said the word our has a broad definition and is inclusive of people from multiple backgrounds. The program has an open enrollment.
Part of our work at UMD and part of our work in this particular school, and in fact language immersion, is to develop sort of an intercultural competence that I think nothing can build understanding better than being able to share language and culture. And I think the fact that we've got kids from a number of different ethnic backgrounds participating in this program, doing something in common together that represents the experience, and nothing is truer to the experience of Native American peoples than their language, doing that together, I think that's going to build a deep understanding that our hope is will continue with all of these children throughout their lives.
The children only know they are having fun learning Ojibwe together, and perhaps they will be the ones to carry forward the language.
So I think immersion education right now is the most important thing we can do as a language movement to ensure our language has a future. Every day when I'm here, when I listen to the voices of children speaking Ojibwe, there is no more beautiful sound than that. I think other than our elders speaking, listening to our kids learn to speak the language, make those sounds for the first time, and then I think my favorite is to hear them on their own generate language. I think there's nothing better than that, nothing more rewarding than that. So when we talk about the future, I see the future there.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Ted Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation. Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Ted Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation. From the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.